everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. And of course, thank you for tuning in, folks. It's always a pleasure to do this for you, and it's mostly a pleasure to do it with Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Frank. I thank you for that. It's been a bit of a rough weekend for me. I hurt my neck somehow over the course of the weekend. Whether it was playing lacrosse on Thursday or shenanigans I got up to on the weekend, I'm not sure. So I'm taking a few days off from sporting activities to try to heal up before I head to Montreal this weekend for the Canadian Grand Prix.
The annual trek.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy. You'll have to
Well,
report back to us.
I most certainly will.
Well, I spent some time on the beach. I didn't have enough time to change between shows. I had a 4 o'clock show, now a 6 o'clock show. And in between, I went to the beach to go see all the fancy cars that are on Beach Drive.
Excellent.
Yeah, awesome. I should have taken some pictures, but I didn't. I was just enjoying the company of some friends there and having a good time. So speaking of company of good friends and having a good time, apparently there's a lot of Edmonton fans that are very happy. But we'll get to that a little later. Let's talk about their other team, the Elks. In the Canadian Football League, they bring back Dakota Prukop, who was released and now finds himself back in Edmonton.
Yeah, it was a very short release for Dakota. He was picked up relatively quickly. The BC Lions released him late in May, and the Elks have now added him to the roster. He played 8 games for the Elk in 2021 and racked up 134 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Spent the last 2 seasons with the Bombers for 2022 and 2023, where he had 13 rushing touchdowns in 27 games. He's a short yardage specialist, which I think is what they were looking for. Um, he also had stops with the New Jersey Generals of the USFL in 2023 and spent some time with the Argonauts between 2017 and 2019. So he's been around to a couple different leagues now, but I can only think that he's going to be a very valuable addition for the Elk.
I like what I saw in camp with the Argos. Was pretty much all you could see about him because he barely made it into the lineup. He played one game for the Argos. Well, got into a game, I should be clear. Another quarterback looking for work now is Mason Fine. He was a starter for the Riders last year, but he's been cut.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I mean, I know he spent 3 seasons with them. He threw for over 1,000 yards, 3 TDs, but he also had 5 interceptions on the flip side with that. He'd actually signed an extension with the Riders in January of 2024. I'm wondering if it was a result of budget or if there's something else going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know either. Montreal and Winnipeg, there's an injury report to talk about. Let us in on this story.
So, for those of you who are building out your fantasy rosters, Sutton sat out and Wynn was limited on Monday's practices. 5 players actually sat out for the Owls: Jesse Gibbon, Reggie White Jr., Jamar McGloster, and defensive backs Wesley Sutton and Arthur Hamlin. Defensive lineman Dylan Wynn and Shedler Furvius were also limited. Winnipeg had a rest day on Sunday before taking the field on Monday for their first practice, but they sat out Taiwan Garbett and defensive back Jake Kelly. Uh, Garbett's out with an ankle, and Jake Kelly's out with an elbow issue. So hopefully they'll get back into the lineups in time for the season openers coming up this weekend.
Let's talk European vroom vroom. Formula One, Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, so after an incident involving Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly early in the Monaco Grand Prix, there were rumblings that he would sit out in Canada, but Esteban has had a relatively decent history running in Montreal, so they decided to let him in. However, this morning news broke that because his contract is up at the end of the season, um, he's going to be seeking employment elsewhere. Interestingly enough, Esteban Ocon is the only driver to win a race for Alpine since it rebranded from Renault at the end of 2020, but he's only scored 1 point in a race so far this season. So they were looking for results, and unfortunately, they didn't get it.
Let's talk hockey, and we'll go to the Memorial Cup. Tell us what happened there.
Very, very exciting game. For the majority of the game, uh, Saginaw was leading. They were actually blanking London going into the third before they finally woke up. The Knights and the Spirit, for those of you who don't know, actually split their 4 regular season meetings before playing in the OHL Western Conference Final. London came out victorious in 6 games before winning the OHL title, but Saginaw, by virtue of the fact that they were hosting the Memorial Cup this year, got a chance to be in it, which was awesome. The Knights came out on top during the round robin to get a spot in the finals, and then the Spirit beat the Western Hockey League champion Moose Jaw Warriors 7-1 in the other semifinal to get another crack at London. Uh, Great game, fast paced, lots of big hits. Easton Cowan was taking a ton of punishment because they were keying on him from London. Bloom, uh, goal front scramble, managed to tuck it under the player who was lying across the goal line trying to prevent the goal, and that's all she wrote. This is Saginaw's first Memorial Cup ever. Very happy for the team.
Good for them. Let's go to the National Hockey League, and there are a lot of Edmonton fans celebrating.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, there seem to be Edmonton fans coming out of the woodwork these days. I'm I'm not
I
sure
was
if it's
pulling for him. I was pulling for him.
hey, I'm pulling for any Canadian team at this point.
That's
Let's
where
be
I'm at.
honest.
If,
Uh,
and people say, well, they're not Canadian. Other teams have Canadian players. Well, they're playing for non-Canadian teams, so that's a tiebreaker for me.
well, and the way I see it, there's enough ex Maple Leafs on the team that I actually enjoyed
Four,
watching play.
four,
I know. There's Calvin
the
Pickard,
core
who
four of Edmonton.
Calvin Pickard, Zach Hyman, Cody Ceci, Connor Brown, all guys I enjoyed watching play when they were with the Leafs and the Marlies. So I'm
Yes, the
not too
Marlies.
upset.
Oh, make it five because I didn't count. I didn't count Pickard. Shoot,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
five. There's five. The other defenseman, he was big in the AHL. Didn't really make it. He played. Uh, what the heck's his name? They have five ex Leafs on the team because
I'm
I
gonna have
didn't
to go
count
take a
my
quick peek at the
four.
roster then because I
Tell
want
me
to
the
make sure
four
that
names again: Connor Brown, Pickard, obviously Hyman,
and Cody Ceci.
Cody Ceci. Yes, there's one more. There's one more.
Hold on, let me pull him up. I
Go ahead.
think I've got the roster here. I probably should remember him. Sam Carrick. There we
Yes.
go.
Am I right?
I think you're right.
Five.
Adam Henrique
I
was a
thought
Maple Leaf for all of 30 seconds, but he was just passing through on a trade.
that's six. Wow. We talked about that, Aaron. We talked about, we've joked about it every time a guy leaves the Leafs to go play for another team, and we've joked that he has a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup now. What does this do? Makes
I
it
mean,
worse next time the subject comes up.
this is one of those things where the Maple Leafs fans are like, why didn't he feel like that with us? And the answer is, we had a log jam.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
where he gets ice time.
Well, see, that does prove the point that stars are very important to a team. No one's going to say that, Connor McDavid is not an important player on that team, right? But, there are other players that they do stuff when he can't. And it's not because he lacks the talent or whatever. It's because he's being hounded. And that's when, the level of play on the other lines, that's where your guys got to be a little better. That's why fourth lines are so important. And we saw an Edmonton team that they rolled all four lines, and they played really well. And, the physicality thing, that was a key against Dallas.
No, this is a team that finally lived up to it. I think they have maybe 2 or 3 players on the roster that are under 6 foot. Everybody else is 6'2" and taller. I think we're looking at Derek Ryan at 5'10" and Sam Gagne at 5'11" are the only guys that are under 6 foot on the entire friggin' team. Um, it's
Size matters.
yeah, no, it definitely does, and I'm glad to see that the kind of hockey that they've been practicing and trying to play for the past 2 or 3 years is finally coming to fruition for them.
Yeah, and they finally have the kinds of players at a moment in time in their careers where they know there's an opportunity here and they're not letting it slip by, and that's, championship teams are opportunistic. They take advantage of opportunities. And it doesn't matter where they come from. We have seen Stanley Cups won by teams who barely sneaked into the playoffs. This year, we saw a team that if we would have gone by the standings in early November, we wouldn't have even thought that Edmonton would have made the playoffs.
And here's the thing, a lot of these guys are slowly aging up. As happens every year, coincidentally, the team is getting older. And every year that you get older, that window that you have to win gets smaller and smaller. Leon Draisaitl is going to be 30 next year.
And he's going to have to renegotiate a contract.
Yeah, that's going to be not a lot of fun for them. I mean, Connor McDavid himself is approaching 27. Corey Perry is, I think, one of the oldest dudes there at 39. He's an 85 kid, closely followed by Derek Ryan. So,
did you see Corey Perry at the end of the game? He just stood there about 10 feet from the goaltender and just stood there and looked at him. Like, huh? Huh? Huh?
What are you gonna
do? Boy, oh boy. Well, the Stanley Cup follows him around. He doesn't win it every time, but golly, he has a way of being on a team that makes it there.
Yeah, and you know what? I was actually kind of hoping he would come to the Leafs, because that might mean I might actually get close.
Well, he's a missing ingredient. He could be a missing ingredient. And you know what? The kind of team they're building, they need a guy like that. But I don't know if he can do it one more time. But if you're the Leafs and the Leaf fans, if you really believe that, and if you believe what you just said, that, having him on the team increases your odds of making it to the Stanley Cup, then for goodness sake, of course you want to have him on your team.
Well, I mean,
like him or not, right?
Yeah. There are certain players that I enjoy seeing play for certain teams. There are others I'm not so sure I would like to have on my team, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure I'd grow to love them eventually.
Well, it's, really truthfully, we talk about players playing for the emblem in the front, not the name in the back. And in actuality, the fans love the emblem in the front, and they just grow attached to the name on the back. It's just the nature of the beast. It is what it is. But good luck to Edmonton. Edmonton fans, enjoy it. You're a Canadian city. That makes you a team that I want to see win. I'd like to see fellow Canadians really celebrate. I think, I'm not one of these people that, well, for example, you and I always joke about Montreal, and, they're one of our least favorite teams. But, when they went to the Stanley Cup final, it was kind of an interesting situation, because I was pulling for them to win, but I wasn't as disappointed in them losing as I will be with Edmonton. I just let my hair down. And of course, Florida previewed that game against Edmonton, playing their sixth game and doing what Edmonton did the next night, which is win the sixth game to take the series 4-2 over the Rangers. Boy, it doesn't pay to be the President's Cup champ.
I thought about that, and it does seem to be an ongoing jinx. I'm not sure what happened to New York's scoring, but it just seemed to disappear.
Chicago was the last team to do that in the 90s.
It's been a while. I don't know if you recall last year.
Or was it 2004?
I think it was 2004.
I think it was 2004. Sorry.
But with the Prince of Wales trophy last year, the Florida Panthers touched it. Interestingly enough, this year, not a single one of them touched it.
It got cooties, no touchy.
You know what? Honestly, hockey players were some of the most superstitious people on earth.
Always have been.
It's
a Canadian thing.
Everything's got to go on the same way, and it's always, for me at any rate, it's always left, right, tie the right, tie the left. Left shin pad, right shin pad, secure the right shin pad, secure the left shin pad. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's the way that I learned growing up, and it seemed to work for me. But as I get older, I keep thinking, why do I keep doing it this way? I don't need to do it this way. But here we are.
Well, thank goodness Canadians aren't so So fearful of bad luck that they're afraid of stepping on a line, because that would be tough to play hockey that way.
Oh, it'd be unbelievably hard.
Step on a crack, break your
Break your mother's back. Yeah.
the good old days. So yeah, so Florida wins. And they did it. They did it with their style intact. The Rangers tried to push back. I just think the Rangers pushing back took away from the game that they actually play really well. And I think the Rangers got caught running around a little bit, trying to accomplish hits, right? Playing outside of their style.
Yeah, they definitely were running around in an attempt to try to hit everything that moved, which is never the way that works well for you.
Not an
Actually,
elimination game.
no, definitely not. It is interesting though. Florida is going to be in the Stanley Cup for the third time. They were swept by Colorado in 1996, lost 4-1 to Vegas last season, and are back again in the finals this year. This is also the third time in the final for Panthers coach Paul Maurice, who lost with Carolina in 2002 and then again with Florida last year. I can't help but think, as much as I want to see Edmonton win, third time might be the charm, and Prison Rules Paul might get his trophy, but I would like to see Connor get one.
I'm pulling for Edmonton, and I think they can do it. And you know why I think they've got a shot? Because if you noticed, Connor McDavid the last few games before this last one was not achieving the kind of things that you hope he would. There's my phone. Sorry, guys. He wasn't achieving the kind of thing that you need to achieve to be a winner and to be branded a winner. But you notice he came through when it counted last night,
Oh goodness, his first
right?
goal was absolute dynamite. I just we were both sitting on the couch just staring at it, going, How?" But as Skinner said, it's Connor McDavid doing Connor McDavid things. So, you know, it's certainly there. He's finally coming to life, and I think that could be a problem for the Panthers.
Well, we'll find out. Edmonton has really recovered on a season that didn't look that well, and they've made some changes. This is another organization that makes it to the Stanley Cup with a coach that didn't start the season. That's another oddity that persists.
No, it's very true. This is one of those things where all the little things start to play into it and sort of help you get a bigger picture of what's going on here. But uh, this season, especially with the way that the Oilers started, nobody thought they were going to be here, and here we are. So
And good for them. Good luck. And Edmonton fans, wish you all the luck in the world. I got nothing against Florida. Just unfortunately, you're playing a Canadian team, and that's where I'm hoping. I'm hoping a Canadian team and Canadian fans get a chance to celebrate. It's been a long time.
I'm just hoping the season series isn't indicative of anything that's going to come here, because on November 20th, Florida beat Edmonton 5-3 in Sunrise, and on December 16th, which is the last time these two teams played each other, Florida beat Edmonton 5-1 in Edmonton. So, well, we'll see how it all plays out.
Well, game one's going on, and we're waiting a while for game one.
I'm just let's go.
Yeah, I know. It's just like when is the game? They're gonna play this year, right? Yeah.
Supposedly, I heard sometime in this century. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to Canadian news and let's talk about the CBSA strike. It could cause problems.
Yeah, if you're planning on going across the border, pack your patience. There is a potential for the Canadian Border Services Agency to go on strike. Here are some of the things that you should need to know. More than 9,000 Public Service Alliance of Canada members who work for the CBSA, including border guards, have secured a strike mandate. Now, this doesn't mean that they are going on strike, but the potential and the approval is there for it. The two sides are going to go into mediation on June 3rd. That's today. And the union will be in a position to strike as of June 6th, which is Thursday. Um, if you'll remember, 3 years ago, nearly brought commercial cross-border traffic to a standstill, causing major delays at airports and borders. But the Treasury Board says 90% of frontline border officers are designated as essential, which means they can't stop working during a strike. It can mean that things will be slower, but everybody has to realize there's about $2.5 billion a day in goods that cross the border. This is one of those essential things that we need.
Tell us about the Quebec provincial government easing restrictions on funds for parents of children with severe disabilities.
Well, parents are entitled to $14,000 annually from the government. Um, but the Quebec government found that many people weren't completing the steps to receive the funding because of the level of paperwork that was involved. They kept finding themselves with a surplus because filling out the receipts and everything like that was really an absolute nightmare. You used to have to file receipts for small expenses. There was a cap on how much they could spend on certain categories of services like babysitting, respite, or domestic help. Um, the family support program benefits are actually going to be paid out now quarterly rather than just once, and they can do with it what they want. They're not going to be required to submit receipts for approval for the funding, which is huge.
Anyone my age will recognize the name Bob Makowitz. He later picked up the, the additional senior, um, and he was the creator of Q107 Psychedelic Sundays, which was awesome. I used to listen to it. He passed away.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He was really one of the pioneers and one of the people that tried to bring uh, slightly more out of the mainstream music to the masses. Um, Not only was he well known for being at Q107, he was also at CFRB AM and the Fan 590 CJCL. Um, it's one of those things where Bob really was a groundbreaker when it came to this sort of thing, and certainly as a staple for my childhood was one of the things that I always looked forward to on Q107.
Absolutely. Then there's the issue, not issue, but the news that in Mexico they elected their first female president of Jewish descent, or Jewish anyway.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge. She was the favorite successor of President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, who vowed to continue on the direction set by the populist leftist leader. But um, there's some consternation out there as to where she's actually going to be going with this. This is certainly something we'll be keeping an eye on in the next few weeks, months, potentially years, to see what direction she takes the country in. Scheinbaum ended up with approximately 58 to 61% of the vote, while the opposition candidate had between 26.5 to 28.5. And the person in third came in with 10 to 11% of the votes. Scheinbaum's Morena party was also projected to hold its majorities in both chambers of Congress. She's a climate scientist and the former mayor of Mexico City. Um, and she was actually 28 points ahead of Galvez with nearly 50% of polling places reporting. Uh, the fact that the two leading candidates were women that left little doubt that Mexico would be making history one way or another on Saturday. I suppose it's a good thing to finally have it happen in
Absolutely,
Mexico.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, and it, well, the country is heavily majority of Catholic, and what happened is pretty interesting. It's we hear so many bad things about how Jews are treated in North America, and this is kind of refreshing.
oh for sure. I am glad to see her taking power. And again, this is something that we will need to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely, really appreciate you doing this, Aaron.
Hey, glad to be here, Frank.
Okay, for Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.